Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and this is a preview for Code Vein. I was invited to the Bandai Namco offices a few weeks back to play a new build of the game. The footage in this video is B-roll provided by Namco, so it's not me playing, but I did get to play. And what is Code Vein? In a nutshell, it is anime Dark Souls, developed by, I believe, the same minds behind God Eater. Now, when I call it anime Souls, I don't do that in a derogatory sense, it's just the easiest way to describe how Code Vein works, because it is very similar to Dark Souls, as Nioh was. The main difference here being that Code Vein is published by Namco, same as Dark Souls. It is an action RPG with online elements. Now I'm going to talk about two main things here, primarily the differences between this and Dark Souls. So if you haven't played any Dark Souls and you don't know what it's like, well, go look at some videos on that and you'll get a good idea. And then I will also talk about how generally good or not I thought the game was from this preview. Incidentally, there should be a network test for the PS4 and the Xbone coming up very soon, if not right now, so you can check it out for yourself. First up though, the differences. Code Vein has a companion system wherein you are often, but not always, accompanied by an NPC, a little like how summons work in Dark Souls. They will talk to you very frequently, and they offer commentary on what's going on. They can heal you if you die, and they bring their own skills and abilities to the table. Likewise, a lot of your abilities will buff, not just yourself, but your companion as well. I believe this feature is working side by side with the co-op with other players, so in theory you'd have you, your friend, and then your NPC companion, but I'm not 100% sure on that right now. It's possible that the player will replace the companion. We'll find out very soon though. When you start Code Vein, you make your character, and you can customize them, make them male or female, but you don't choose a class. Instead you have items that you equip anytime that change your class on the fly. Each class will adjust your stats slightly and also grant their own passive and activated abilities. For example, the Ranger is more dexterity focused, whereas the Caster has fireballs and the like, and the Fighter had more health and also was able to carry more heavier items, shall we say. The Fighter also had a pretty cool 3-hit combo attack that I used a lot. Now, this is different to Dark Souls, wherein in Dark Souls your class is only your initial stats. Beyond that, it doesn't really play into the game at all. Whereas in Code Vein, classes are more important, shall we say. This attack that the Fighter has, the Caster doesn't have, but at the same time you can swap to a Caster really whenever you feel like it. The game's tutorial tossed a whole lot of weird information at you in the span of like 3 or 4 minutes. It was all, well, use your Ichor and your Miasma and your bloody jacket of class changing, and you know, it was a lot of weird terminology, but once I actually got playing, I found it intuitive and easy to figure out, because you're like, oh okay, Ichor is this and that is that. You start making those equivalences in your mind. And in general, if you've played any Souls game, you'll have a very good idea of how the gameplay and the combat and all of that work. There are 3 primary resources to manage in combat: health and stamina, as you'd expect, and then Ichor, which works very similar to Quicksilver bullets from Bloodborne. This is the meter that you use to do special attacks or cast spells, the resource, and it can be replenished by defeating enemies or using a charge-up attack to drain Ichor or blood from them. I enjoyed how it worked in the demo because it felt less restrictive than Quicksilver bullets or Spirit Emblems from Sekiro, where you use them and then you can get more, but it's quite limited. Whereas in Code Vein, it was easier to keep your supply replenished, but it still limited you from just spamming indefinitely over and over again. The stamina is also tied to a sort of focus or posture system. Essentially, as you dodge attacks with close timing and you take damage or deal damage, you build up a meter. Once it maxes out, it instantly replenishes all of your stamina and you gain more stagger ability on your attacks. Enemies also have this. And I feel like there's some sort of deflect system that I didn't quite understand, as I'm sure at certain points I attacked at the same time an enemy and I didn't take any, or very minimal, damage. That's something I'll need to look into when I have a better controller and controlled environment though. And there's also a parry system, which I didn't use very much. which works very similar to Dark Souls. You press like left trigger before an attack. Now, I mostly used one axe weapon for the majority of my time playing, as a short demo preview isn't the time to investigate everything. But there's one-handed swords, two-handed swords, halberds, axes, giant hammers, bayonets, and so on. And I imagine it varies per weapon, but blocking didn't feel good in Code Vein. There was chip damage on blocks, and they also get you locked in place. Like if you block an attack, there is hit stun, meaning dodging was definitely the way to go, because, you know, you have iframes. Of course, maybe some builds can focus more on blocking. There was parrying as mentioned, but it didn't feel too good with the version I had, as it was too slow and the timing was unusual. Which brings me on to my next point. Armour in Code Vein. You can equip one piece of armour that effectively gives you different special attacks. Parries and backstabs is what I mean by special attacks. I think that's all the important gameplay info I wanted to cover, but I invite you to ask questions in the comments if you have them, and I'll do my best to answer. You will also get to check the game out on PS4 and Xbox One in the network test very soon. The game is coming to PC, I believe, but not the network test. How about some other aspects though, like performance? Well, we were on PS4 Pros, I think, at the event. It was definitely a PS4, and the game is targeting 60 FPS. I definitely noticed some dips here and there, and I have no idea about resolution, but 60 FPS is definitely something good to be targeting, and I expect it should hit it pretty well, especially on PC. I'm almost certain the game is running on the Unreal Engine, as I saw some quirks from that engine. So that's probably a good thing that it's running on Unreal, as it's a relatively stable engine. Now, I can't comment much on music and sound design because of the messed up controller I had at the event. The headphones were plugged into the controller, so the audio was broken, as well as the responsiveness on the controller pad. The audio was like constantly going like like flickering or stuttering, and the controller would miss inputs a lot of the time. I don't know if it was just like a wireless issue or too many things in the room, like phones, and I don't know, but it wasn't ideal. There is English voice acting and the option to swap, but you had to do that from the main menu, and I didn't go back to the main menu. But I'm thinking there will be Japanese if they let you swap voices, and considering how heavily anime this game is, I think Japanese is probably the way to go. Speaking of, the story. I'm sure the story will be fine in Code Vein, but it's very hard for me to take it seriously. The game is so anime that whilst I, can enjoy it like Xenoblade 2, I can't take it seriously. Not when your white-haired companion with giant boobs is wiggling about all over the place in like a tiny little dress in dramatic moments. Don't get me wrong, I'm fine with sexy characters, but if you took Dark Souls and made everyone all cute and sexy anime characters, it loses a lot of the gravitas, you know? It's not like a complaint, it's just a subjective issue. If I'm playing, what's that, Senran Kagura game, if I'm playing that, I'm not really going to be taking it seriously. I'm not going to take Dead or Alive Extreme Vacation Volleyball seriously, because you're not meant to, and if Code Vein wants me to take it seriously, it can't have such a over-the-top anime sort of thing going on. On that note, the white-haired girl, Io, I think she was called, best girl for sure. And not just because she has white hair. I know you might think I'm biased there for some reason, but I'm really not. I mean, I prefer brunettes, but it's whatever. That's about it for Code Vein for the time being. Anime Souls is a very fitting way to describe it, but again, I'm not saying it's a Souls clone in a derogatory sense. It doesn't suck because it's, copying Dark Souls, much like Nioh didn't suck because it was copying Dark Souls. I feel like it's going to bring something new enough to the table to be familiar to fans of Dark Souls, but still more than an uninspired ripoff. The seeming emphasis on co-op is very interesting to me, because I really like co-op, so I'm a little bit biased there, I'll admit. And I think that's going to be my main interest in the game. If it didn't have that, I'd probably skip it. Overall, the gameplay feels, how to put it, a little clunky. There's a slight Dark Souls 2 feel to the whole thing. I know that's really nebulous and vague, saying it feels like Dark Souls 2, but once you play it in the network test, you'll probably see what I mean. But I'm eager to try it out more and do some co-op with my friends. Until then, I hope this video was useful, and I'll catch you guys next time. Maybe I'll see you in the network test. Ciao.